Hi green lovers! Well, I've had worm farms for about a little over 2 years now, but this year I discovered a new way that is so simple and so maintenance free that I wonder why I didn't do it before. I'm going to be doing several more of these, and these are the tote worm bins. But first, let's take a look at them and see how they're doing. I started these in January, and about once a month or so I added some food scraps to it. Let's see how they've evolved. Now I'm going to warn you that they're probably going to have more than worms in them. They're probably going to have soldier fly larvae, maybe ants, all kinds of other creepy crawlies. And they're outdoor bins, and so that's quite okay with me. They're pretty far away from my house. But I think all of those creatures help decompose this material so much faster and result in beautiful castings.
Okay, going back about 10 months, let's take a look at how it all started. Okay, so I have filled up these bins, these 18-gallon totes, all the way to the top with fall leaves. These are dry fall leaves from my oak trees in my garden. I dumped in a couple of handfuls of worms, and I haven't fed them yet. I will come back and feed them after I've let them settle in for a few days, but let them get adjusted to their new environment here.
So it's been at least a month since I looked at these worm bins. It's the end of April. I got these started in mid-January, and let's see the progress. Basically, I just dumped a bunch of leaves in it, put some kitchen scraps, and that was about it. And I have come and fed these I'd say roughly maybe 3 times with kitchen scraps, and pretty much done nothing else. I had put in a handful of starter worms to begin with. Wow, they have really decomposed the kitchen scraps that I put in last time. I can hardly see anything, but I can see worms. That's a really good sign. So about once a month I come out here and I dump a bucket full of veggie scraps on top of this. And basically my veggie scraps are anything that does not contain dairy or meat or oil. So anything that used to be a vegetable or fruit for the most part. And then I layer on, just to give it a little bit of carbon, I grab some dry leaves from my garden, just stuff that's lying around, cover it up. That also helps prevent fruit flies and other animal pests from smelling it. And I do yet another layer of protection. I put some plastic on top of it, and then I cover it up, and I put a brick on top of this, because if I don't do that, rodents will come and get into this, and I don't want that to happen. And that's it. That's really all I do once a month. Now, I last fed these worm bins I'd say about a week ago. I threw in some kitchen scraps, and all I do is I throw in kitchen scraps and then I cover them with a layer of some kind of brown material like leaves, mostly leaves from my garden. And then I cover it with this plastic wrap, because that really helps keep everything nice and warm and cozy. And I think it generates less potential for things like fruit flies, etc. Though, again, not too concerned because this is an outdoor bin. Got my handy dandy tool here. Let's scrape back some of these brown things on the surface and see what's going on right underneath. So you can see soldier fly larvae right here, and you can immediately see loads of worms. This is a pepper. Oh, maybe actually no. Yeah, it is a pepper, and it's got some cantaloupe seeds in it. And this is as simple as it is to collect worm tea. I've used a plant label to stick into this hole. This is a repurposed bin. It used to be a planter, so it had a hole in it, and I've used this little thing to navigate the water. Otherwise the water tends to drop down and kind of go at the back and drop all over the place, but this helps direct it nicely to where it's supposed to go. I collect this, I dilute it maybe 1:4 or 1:10, whatever you like, and I use it to water my plants, and it's great nutrition.
So folks, it's been about 10 months since I started these worm bins, and I want to show you how they are doing. Now know that this was primarily leaves to begin with, and I've been interspersing leaves and kitchen scraps in this bin. You can see right off the bat there are worms crawling around here, and that's a really good sign for what's going on inside here. So let me just remove this top layer of leaves and show you what's happening under the surface. Right there you can see an avocado skin, and this craziness is what is all through the bin. It is loaded with worms, and this is dense worm castings. In fact, I came out here yesterday and I dug up a whole bunch of worm castings from the bottom. So what I do is, the way I harvest it is I go to the bottom of the bin. So I move things aside, and as you can see as I'm going through this, just a lot of worms, folks. This is a very active worm bin, and I go all the way to the bottom and I dig out castings from there. I put it in another bucket, and then I move that bucket over into a fresh worm bin that I'll show you in just a moment. And that is how I get worms from this bin into that. I let them migrate out of the castings and into the fresh food, which is where they want to go. So this is how easy it is, folks, to build these worm bins. You just fill it up with leaves, throw in some worms, throw in some kitchen scraps, come back and repeat that process once every couple of weeks, once a month, whatever frequency you want. And the compost, the vermicompost, just happens. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, so this is the new bin that I started, gosh, maybe about a month ago. So there aren't too many worms in this, but what I have been doing is I've been filling it up with just scraps from the garden. You can see here. Ants, all kinds of flying creatures. This is why this is an outdoor bin, folks, because I don't want these creatures flying around in my house. And I just throw kitchen scraps in here. Now I'm actually supposed to be throwing some leaves on top of this. I didn't get around to it, but typically that's what I do, is I throw in kitchen scraps, I dump leaves on top, I throw in kitchen scraps, and the process repeats. Over here are some of the worm castings that I was talking about from the other bin that I got from the bottom. And I've got this bucket sitting here, and if you see, this bucket has got a lot of holes drilled into the side. So I just use this as a permanent spot for this bucket to store my castings that I harvest from the other bins. And I leave it in here and come back the next day or so, and all the worms have migrated out of this bin. There weren't that many to begin with, because this was, remember, from the bottom of the other bin. And so those are mostly finished castings. And I just let it sit here, and these migrate over from this bucket into this, because this is where the good stuff is. And this is where the worms want to hang out. Look at that one. It's eating watermelon. That's like their favorite fruit in the whole wide world. That and corn. Worms love watermelons and corn. So this is how I harvest my worm castings. Simple as that, folks. And it creates the next generation of worms that are going to migrate into this side of the bin and make it into black gold, just like you saw in that other bin. I hope you try this, folks. Simple, easy, no nonsense, no sweat, vermicomposting.